All right. So first of all, what is Expressway? Expressway series devices are used for call processing, for video endpoints mostly. For audio, generally CUCM is used. So like I mentioned earlier, CUCM can be used for video call processing also, but it is not very efficient for it and has limited capability for that. So Expressway is designed specifically for video endpoints and for things like mobile and remote access, for providing the remote users and external users the access to the internal resources. Yeah. So for video, we have presence series, telepresence series with Expressway servers. We have endpoint registration on Expressway C. We can place calls to remote destinations, and that too with some policies with allowing only certain authorized users to be able to make calls and to be even get registered on any devices based on the domain names, on IP addresses, and so on. Yeah, we will see that. So Expressway C and E are the two components of these Expressway series that we will be talking about. Expressway C provides call control where we configure the dial plans to allow or block call attempts and registration for remote destination devices as well. And Expressway E resides outside the firewall. Yeah. So here we can see that Expressway is there. We have Expressway C in the enterprise network as a core device, as the name says, Expressway core. And then we have Expressway E, which is Expressway Edge, which resides outside the network or in the DMZ zone. Yeah. So what basically happens is Expressway C creates a session with Expressway E. So it's like a tunnel they create within themselves, which is a trusted tunnel for any authenticated, authorized users who wants to get access from outside. So let's suppose we have our enterprise network, we have a Jabber client here, we have a COCM, and internally within our network, we do not require any firewall traversal or net traversal here. It can directly register with our CUCM here. Yeah. Expressway C here and the E is used to create a session between themselves, which bypasses the firewall for the outside users. For example, a Jabber client here on the internet wants to get registered on the CUCM in the enterprise network. Now, the firewall would not allow that as per its basic operation. It would not allow the external users. It will only allow the internal users to make calls outside to get registered or to send any request as per the rules we have configured on firewall, because these are the trusted devices, the trusted endpoints. But outside users are not trusted as per its basic functionality. It will not allow. But it can reach the Expressway E, then Expressway E is responsible to authenticate, to create a session with Expressway C, which is inside the enterprise, and then bypass it by a firewall traversal. That's what it is called. Or if there's a NAT configured, then NAT traversal is performed. So basically, Expressway E performs all these traversal functions. Expressway C then sends it to the targeted resources, for example, CUCM or maybe Unity connection or IMN presence and so on. Yeah. So basically, Expressway series devices are used for mobile and remote access. So this functionality is called mobile and remote access, performed by both Expressway C and E. It supports Jabber clients, telepresence endpoints, and some Cisco IP phones. So basically, Cisco Expressway is a powerful gateway solution specifically designed for comprehensive collaboration services provided through CUCM, to business editions, not used anymore that commonly, or Cisco hosted collaboration solutions. So let's say there is someone here, as we can see in this example, outside on the internet, and they are using, let's suppose, some application, Jabber application on their smartphone also. Yeah, so they can come in and register to the CUCM in the headquarter through this firewall with the help of Expressway. So Expressway is the one who would let us do that via firewall traversal. These are the two main functions as we are mentioning: firewall traversal, NAT traversal. Okay, so Expressway allows these two things for the mobile and remote access So the two components of Expressway are Expressway C and Expressway E. C stands for core, E is the edge. Yeah. Now on the edge, we have a traversal server and our Expressway C is a traversal client. And these are the zone types we create. That's the part of the configuration we will see later on. But just for you to know, these nodes are called traversal client, that is core, and traversal server, that is the edge. Yeah. So traversal server, which is installed in the DMZ. So this is called the server, which is creating the service and providing service to the clients. Yeah. And traversal client, which is our core, Expressway core, which is installed within the enterprise. Then some different licenses are used by these different servers. So basically, even if you see their configuration page, their dashboard, everything looks alike, very similar. Only difference is the licensing. So on the Expressway E, you install an Expressway E license. On Expressway C, you install an Expressway C license. A lot of configuration capabilities, user configurations, and so on, status configuration, all that is very similar again. Some of the configurations would be different, like I just mentioned the traversal server and client configuration, that would be a bit different. Rest, everything is very similar, even in case of Cisco VCS we had earlier. VCS, like I mentioned in the previous section when I talked about the difference between VCS and Expressway, VCS is a video only solution, and due to some problems, just because of the licensing part, Expressway is better in terms of its licensing and provisioning. So Expressway is the one more commonly used now, but it's not that VCS is not used. VCS is still used, but recently only Cisco has made an end of support now. So going forward, we would require to use only Expressway, because VCS only the companies who have their infrastructure with VCS, they would be able to operate it, and it works very similar to Expressway, but because it's end of support, so they would not be able to now, even with the contracts, would be able to get support from Cisco. So let me just see here. Uh, just as an information, yeah, PCS. So this was end of sale in 2020, and now it will be end of support in December 2023 itself, within this year. So no longer this would be providing any support, and it will not be sold as well, which is again very similar. If you see its interface, its OVA, everything is very similar to Expressway. But now as we are moving solely to Expressway, so that is what we are focusing on, and even Cisco has removed that from the course curriculum. All right. So here we will be talking about Expressway. We will be doing the configurations on that as well. So let's begin. So here we will be talking about the Expressway series devices. So as you may know that VCS and Expressway, these are the two main solutions which are provided by Cisco. But here we'll be more focusing on the Expressway series. Let's first see and talk about both of these one by one as an overview. So Cisco basically has two products available that seem to perform the exact same function, that is Cisco VCS and Cisco Expressway. VCS stands for Video Communication Server, and in Expressway we have two of the devices, core and edge. Similarly, in VCS also we have two of the components of it that we will see now. So we'll see what are the differences between these and when should choose one over the other. So let's see here. Cisco acquired VCS from a company called Tenberg. So Tenberg was the company initially which used to have this VCS solution, who designed the solution. So Cisco then acquired it from Tenberg, in Tenberg 2010, I guess. In 2010 they acquired it from Tenberg and then renamed it to Cisco VCS. And Tenberg was a video telecommunications company that supported video only as a mode of communication. But the VCS was and still is capable of supporting both SIP and HT23. This is something again similar between both Expressway and VCS, that they support SIP and HT23 endpoints, which is not supported by some other call processing servers. Tenberg also offered an ISDN gateway for IP to ISDN communication, and MCU or telepresence server for multi-point communication, and TMS server was used for easier management of the entire Tenberg solution. This is like a management point, a central point from where the management of the Tenberg solution was done. Then VCS came into two models, same like Expressway. We had VCS Control and VCS Expressway. These were the terms used as Control and Expressway as the two models of VCS. So VCS Control is located inside of the corporate network, same like the Expressway core, and all internal devices would register to the VCS Control. So it takes care of the registration, call processing, everything for the internal network. That is the VCS core was doing, the control was doing. So it is located inside the corporate network, and all internal devices registers to the VCS control, including both SIP and HT23 endpoints, telepresence servers, MCU, and ISDN gateways. All these can have registrations and their configurations from the VCS control. VCS control also supported SIP to HT23 gateway. So two of these protocols could communicate with one another. So it supported interworking between the SIP and HT23. Yeah. Then two different VCS controls also, like let's suppose from one network to another, we have a VCS control in both, and we want a communication between the VCS controls that could communicate with one another using a trunk through the WAN. That trunk was called neighbor zone. We will get into those in more details in a topic dedicatedly for zones. But for now, just we can have a communication between VCS controls. So they can communicate using a special trunk type. Then other model of VCS, which is the Expressway, was used to traverse the firewall and NAT servers at the edge of the network, same like the Expressway edge we have. This allows the endpoints inside the corporate network to communicate with the other businesses outside. Yeah, the ones that are outside the network or over the WAN or over the internet. So VCS Expressway is located outside the firewall, either on the public internet or within the DMZ. VCS Control and Expressway could communicate with one another using another special trunk called traversal zone. Yeah, let me mention that. And VCS, two other VCS can be through neighbor zone. So a VCS and VCS control are neighbors. So a neighbor zone trunk is configured, and between VCS control and VCS expressway, a traversal zone is configured where the control is a client and the expressway is the server. Yeah. Now, this is still a viable solution under the collaboration solution. Now, because the VCS expressway operates exactly like the VCS control, its capabilities are very similar. Yeah. The endpoints located outside of the network can register to expressway without the need for VPN connections into the corporate network. So let's suppose a branch office wants to get registered to expressway. That can be done, but that from security perspective, not recommended. All right. Then this is the Cisco solution prior to Tenberg. So this is what we have seen, that before Cisco had acquired Tenberg, this is what the Tenberg solution is. We had VCS control, VCS expressway. We had the support for SIP and HTTP23 endpoints. We had multiple point control unit and ISDN gateway. This was the main architecture of the Tenberg VCS solution. Whereas at that time, before acquiring it, Cisco's unified collaboration solution was something like this. So in that Cisco solution before Tenberg acquisition was uh, where CUCM was the primary call control mechanism. Yeah. It supported SIP and STCP only. So it only supported SIP and SCCP endpoints. So SIP, SCCP endpoints only were supported. No HT23 was supported. Then for multi-point communication, we had CTMS that you can see over here. CTMS, it stands for Cisco Telepresence Multi-Point Switch, which is used for multi-point communication, like conferencing and so on. Then we had a cube element, which is used for PSTN access or through PRI ports on the iOS routers for the PSTN communications. So these were the components which were used in the legacy Cisco Unified Communication solution before acquiring Tenberg. The intercluster trunks could be established across the WAN between CUCM for more unified network, but there was no way to traverse the firewall by that time or NAT at the edge of the network. And there were other devices available with unified communication solutions. For example, we had Unity connection, IMIN presence for different purposes, but no way to traverse the firewall or NAT for external remote users. So then once Cisco acquired Tenberg, it added those capabilities and got more feature and capability rich. But as Cisco acquired Tenberg, they had to make some changes, as like every company does. Whenever they acquire anything, they make it their own proprietary by making some changes to it as per their requirement and their structure and business needs. So Cisco acquired it and then made some immediate changes in the network topology by blending certain elements of the two solutions. So the CTMS server was then retired and Cisco went ahead with the multi-point control unit. So in the legacy CTMS which was used was replaced by the Tenberg solution MCU. Yeah, so that was one replacement. So they retired their own server CTMS and instead started using MCU for multi-point communication. So MCU was used and telepresence server for multi-point conferencing also MCU was used. ISDN gateway, which was used in the Tenberg, was replaced by the Cisco Cube. Yeah. So it used their own product, their Cube, instead of the Tenberg's ISDN gateway. Yeah. Or iOS gateway for PRI cards or IP to ISDN connectivity. Then the VCS control was recommended for HT23 endpoints or third-party endpoint registration. Yeah, because the CUCM does not support HT23, so VCS control was used for that purpose. The Cisco's choice was the primary call control server, that is the CUCM for call registrations, for endpoint registration. So all SIP endpoints and the VoIP phones could continue to register to the CUCM as before. But for the HT23, we had to use the VCS control, which was then renamed to Expressway Core, and VCS Expressway was renamed to Expressway Edge. And the functionality are still the same, and their placement in the network architecture is the same. So this is what is the fully enabled network solution as after the acquisition of Tenberg solution. And VCS was also primarily used earlier, but that since it is end of sale after that, Expressway Core and Expressway Edge is only used. So you would rarely you can find, but find VCS also being used by some of the companies, like old companies and all. So here, starting with the version 8.1, Cisco introduced a new pair of servers called these Expressway series servers, Expressway Core and Edge, but just by changing the firmware a little bit. And the servers have the same menu, same capabilities as the Expressway and VCS both have, except that they can't support direct registration from endpoint. That was one difference in the VCS. So VCS did not support the direct registration for video telepresence endpoint registration. It was relying on the CUCM only for that registration part. But after the 8.9 version release, I guess, yeah, this was also fixed in the VCS by Cisco. So both the products now, Expressway and VCS, would then support both the all capabilities and their features and services were all very similar and almost the same. So now where is the difference? So the difference was then the licensing part, right? So they all had these all features: mobile and remote access, business to business video, consumer to business with Jabberguest, meeting server, video interworking, telepresence or video endpoint registration, WebEx hybrid service connectors, WebEx collaboration meetings, I'm in Presence Federation, Skype for Business Federation, all these interoperability services. Everything was supported, but only the licensing was the main difference now. Yeah. So we have mobile and remote access, which allows endpoints for the VoIP phones outside the network to proxy the registration to CUCM through Expressway Core and Edge without the need of the VPN here. Then Expressway Core and Edge are both the free applications that users can download, but not the licenses. It's just the application free to be downloaded as like a trial version. But then for most of the capabilities, you would require a licensed version, so you need to have a license installed. Yeah. So if you have purchased certain licenses, you can just download and install it for free. The idea is to offer some of the VCS capabilities to CUCM customers without the need to purchase all the licenses that coincide with the VCS. So if any customer who did purchase VCS can still set up MRA, mobile and remote access, without needing to deploy Expressway Core and Edge, since Control and Expressway VCS performs the same function. The ability to register endpoints was the only main difference here, which was then omitted and removed in version 8.9 and later. So either server then could support the direct registration for HTTP2.3 and SIP, which was one of the difference earlier. Now, what is the main difference? So that difference, as I mentioned, is the licensing. So the difference here is the licensing part, where the VCS used user-based license, and expressways use, sorry, the VCS use device-based license, and yeah, right. So VCS use device-based license, whereas expressway use user-based license. So that also is very effective in managing cost, and as it requires less cost and more effective in terms of the number of licenses in the management of licenses. On VCS, you must purchase the number of registration licenses required for the number of devices because it is device based. That means if a user has a desk endpoint at work and an endpoint at home that needs to be registered, then two device registration licenses needs to be purchased separately for that one single user. Whereas in Expressway, that is not the case. It is per user. So and per user license, two devices by default are can be registered. So a device registration license is provided for each personal user. So no extra licenses would be needed. You can add room registration licenses for meeting room endpoints that are not associated with one specific user, that are for a group of users. Yeah. So those are again some additional benefits of the licensing in case of Expressway. In both the cases, these licenses support SIP and HTTP2.3 registration. That is something common. On VCS, you need call licensing specific to traversal and non-traversal calls. Now, what are traversal calls? Traversal calls are the calls from the outside users, from the remote users, and non-traversal calls are the calls between the endpoints within the enterprise. It can be between the users registered on Expressway and CUCM or Gatekeeper, or just the Expressway, or just between the Expressway and CUCM. So those are called traversal calls. Whereas sorry, those are called non-traversal calls, and the traversal calls are from the remote users where it bypass the firewall or the NAT. On Expressway, local call licensing are included with no additional cost. So for local or non-traversal calls, no additional license would be required. But if you want to add business-to-business capabilities uh, or business to customer or interoperability like with third-party solutions like Microsoft Skype for Business, you need external license for that. That is called RMS. RMS stands for Rich Media Session License. So this is where Rich Media Session License would be required for. This is something you should know from licensing point of view, that where you would require what kind of license. So RMS is required for business to business calls, traversal calls, business to customer calls, and interoperability gateway calls, where you have to have a third party integration, like for Skype for Business, Teams nowadays, which is used. So with any third-party solutions, or to make any firewall traversal calls, or for Jabber clients calling through the expressway, or get accessing any services or resources from the enterprise through the expressway. We would require RMS license. Now, where we would not require RMS licenses, so it is not recommended to purchase RMS license uh, to avoid any unnecessary cost or expenditure. So it is good to know where you would not require RMS license. So in not all the infrastructure deployments you would need it. So if these are the only calls you would require, then no need to go for RMS license. So the calls like between two endpoints registered on the same expressway, calls between two endpoints registered to the CUCM, calls between endpoints registered to CUCM and an endpoint registered on the expressway, again within the enterprise. Calls to CMS, Cisco Meeting Server, or Video Mesh Node for conferencing. Calls to WebEx Cloud Services, even. They have to use separate licensing, and RMS is not required for that. Only for firewall traversal or between business to business calls, business to customer, and interoperability gateway calls with third party solutions. There we would require RMS license. All right. So next, you should know about these licenses, these products, when what solution should be used, VCS or Expressway. Although we have just discussed that Expressway is the one we are using now, and we are going to be using it going forward. We discussed about two licenses. If you remember, we discussed about User Connect license and Workspace license. So we have these Cisco Smart licensing. So if you have the Cisco Smart licensing, let's suppose if you are running CUCM, Unity Connection, I'm in Presence, you already have the Smart licensing. Then if you just want to add Expressway, there are some of the licensing that would support without having any need to have additional licensing. But for that, in this Smart licensing, first, you should know there are two types of license, User Connect and Workspace licensing. So in User Connect license, we have Essential, we have Basic, we have Enhanced, and Enhanced Plus. Now, you should know that if you have Essential or Basic, then you would require Expressway license additionally, because these two do not provide any Expressway capabilities. Whereas Enhanced and Enhanced Plus, if you have a User Connect license Enhanced or Enhanced Plus, then these provide Expressway capabilities also, and two devices per user are supported. So this is about the User Connect licensing. So these are the ones which are the ones supported for Expressway. Whereas Workspace licensing, there are three models with additional feature capabilities. We have like one for meetings, and we have Essential. They give additional capabilities like the enhanced and enhanced plus. So it is just similar to that. Along with that, some additionally, it gives you capabilities for Unity connection. So if you want to have additionally Unity connection or conference meetings, so this is the one you would want to go for then. That is Workspace license. Now, as